All right, joining us right now from the Texas Tribune, it's our good friend Patrick Svitek. Patrick, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us today on the show. It's today is the final day where lawmakers can file bills, correct?
It is, yeah. We're finally starting to kind of turn the corner in the legislative session. Obviously, it always starts off a little bit slow. Maybe to some this session it hasn't been that way, but this is usually a traditional time in the session when things really start picking up.
Yeah, and today's the final day. There may be a few things that are filed today, but it seems as though all the big issues and big priorities have already been taken, well, not taken care of, but at least been filed, correct?
Yeah, that's true. There's been legislation to accompany all of the governor's emergency items. Some of those have even passed. And then you've seen legislation filed to accompany all of the 25 priority items that the lieutenant governor has laid out. So all the big-ticket items in the eyes of the legislative leaders have already been filed, and like I said, in some cases already passed.
Very cool. So we'll see what happens if anything is filed today. What do you know what time they have to have everything filed by? What time all this has to be locked up?
I don't know for sure. I imagine it's close of business. That's usually how these kind of deadlines work.
Okay, cool. Let's see. In the issue with Ken Paxton, now there looks to be the prosecutors want to delay. Out of everyone who wants to delay, The prosecutors now want to delay, and it's because they want money.
Yeah, so it's yet another wrinkle in the kind of pretrial maneuverings that we've seen. Right now, the trial is set for May 1st. The prosecutors, though, they argue that because they haven't gotten paid due to an appellate court ruling in Dallas, that they want to put off that trial date until 60 days after the appellate court in Dallas settles this whole payment issue. According to them, they have not gotten paid since January of last year, January 2016. I think the bill is somewhere in the several hundred thousands of dollars, and so they're looking to resolve that before they enter the home stretch before a trial. And obviously this could be, if granted, this could be problematic for Ken Paxton because it could delay his trial deeper into the year, deeper into the political season. And so that is just the latest wrinkle here. They're still haggling over the change of venue request that we saw several weeks ago. And so this is all, again, ahead of a trial that right now is set for May 1st.
Well, and if I'm the defense, if I'm representing Ken Paxton, I'm probably completely against this because it's like, no, we got a little bit of momentum here. Let's go. Let's get this thing over with. Because, I mean, look, I understand wanting to get paid money and all that kind of good stuff, but it does give the prosecution a little bit of extra time to work on this whole case, right?
Yeah, I mean, Ken Paxton's lawyers, I imagine they're going to respond in court soon, and they're expected to, entirely oppose this. They're probably going to argue that Ken Paxton has a right to a speedy trial, and that this would, hamper that right. And so you can probably expect that they're not going to be a fan of this motion that was filed yesterday.
Yeah, I think so. And this whole thing just continues as the Paxton trials turn. Let's move on and see what else is happening in the legislature. It was interesting. Senator Cruz, who I thought would be busy tackling, the whole health care issue up in Washington, he actually sent a letter. He's getting involved in some state politics, correct?
Yeah, yesterday he delivered, or his office delivered a letter to every Republican member of the Texas House and Texas Senate, urging them to pass school choice this session. He's waded into this a little bit before. There was a TPPF event in Austin earlier this year where he made a similar kind of call for action. This letter is a little more detailed. He says he strongly supports education savings accounts, which are a key part of the school choice legislation that's working its way through the Senate. And, as we noted in the story, it's very unusual for him to get involved in specific legislative battles at the Capitol. As a reporter, I know because in the last session, I remember trying to get him involved in a number of issues, trying to get him to weigh in, and he very dutifully resisted. And so I think it is notable when he does choose to engage on an issue. This is obviously something he clearly cares about.
So you started this. You started this by trying to get Cruz involved. Okay,
that's how it works.
Is this? I mean, listen, in the House, I think that everyone who's looking at the issue of school choice and school vouchers, even those who want school choice and school vouchers, they may not want to admit it publicly, but I think everyone knows that it's a dead issue in the House. Is there any hope from the Senate side of things that this letter from Cruz will maybe light a fire under the House Speaker or under Dan Huberty or any of these other lawmakers that are anti school choice?
Obviously, I think Cruz is adding his voice to many voices from the outside that are now putting pressure on the House to act on this issue. But I think, as you pointed out, the state of play on this issue in the House has really not seriously changed since I think 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago when Dan Huberty, the chairman of the House Public Education Committee, basically declared the issue dead on arrival in the House. And so I don't think things have materially changed over there.
Very interesting. We're visiting with Patrick Svitek of the Texas Tribune. The bathroom bill, we bring this up every week because it's the major headline of this entire session so far. The bathroom bill had a huge hearing, a long hearing. It's moved out of the Senate committee. I thought one of the more interesting things this week was that you actually had a Democrat who came out in favor of the bathroom bill.
Yeah, you had Senator Eddie Lucio, a Democrat from the Valley, vote in favor of it. He, at the committee level, he had previously announced that he would support it. I believe that was last week, and so he was one of the votes for it in the committee. It ended up passing out of the committee with only one vote against it. That was the other Democrat on the committee, and so now it heads to the Senate floor, where at this point it looks like its chances are pretty good. There was a little lack of clarity earlier, or last month, I should say, about the level of Republican support it had, but it looks like it now has the votes to bring it to the Senate floor and then to pass it off the Senate floor, and then it's going to head over to the House.
Oh yeah, but is this another one of those bills that's dead on arrival in the House from everything you've heard?
This is, just like school choice, this is another issue where the reality over in the House has not changed significantly in recent weeks. And in fact, Joe Strauss, the House Speaker, as the Senate committee was taking up this bathroom bill, he spoke with reporters and reiterated, in case anyone forgot, that he is not a fan of this bill. And so, again, I don't think the environment for that bill over in the House has changed too much.
Yeah, we're visiting with Patrick Svitek, and on top of that, with this whole dynamic between the House and the Senate, your colleague Ross Ramsey has a piece up on the Tribune this morning talking about the party in power acts more like two parties at war, and you do kind of get that from the House and the Senate, and I think you've always had a dynamic between the House and the Senate, at least especially when one party is in power. But this year especially, it just seems so much more pronounced, the differences between the House and the Senate. Do you get that feeling as well?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think both those leaders, the lieutenant governor and the speaker, are both confident in their own rights, and they're both, willing to chart their own course for their chamber. There's certainly some outreach going on and some collaboration going on, but in terms of their priorities, they're pretty far apart. I think one of the contrasts you saw this week was as this marathon bathroom bill hearing was happening in the Senate, the House was rolling out a major school finance bill, and Speaker Strauss stopped by later, I believe on Tuesday, stopped by the Education Committee where this school finance bill is being taken up, presumably as a symbol of the commitment all the way at the top of the House chamber to this cause. And so that was another, just kind of subtle contrast you saw between the chambers this week in terms of where their priorities are, where they'd like to think people see their priorities. Yeah,
what is that? How much information do you have on that bill that was brought up, the House finance bill? How much info do you have on that?
Yeah, so it was unveiled by Dan Huberty, the House Public Education Committee chair, and he kind of characterized it as just the first step in overhauling the public school finance system in Texas. He has previously talked about how this could take more than one regular session. That this session is just the start of it. But in essence, the legislation it would boost per student funding for just about every public and charter school in the state. It would reduce the amount of money wealthier school districts are required to give up to kind of help the poorer school districts. This would tackle this so-called Robin Hood plan that we've heard so much about and that people have complained about for so long. Has been such an issue in our politics in Texas when it comes to education.
Yeah, two different between the House and the Senate right there, between vouchers and that bill, two very different ideas coming from the Republican Party in Texas.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be interesting to watch how this plays out. Patrick, what are you working on right now, and what can people look forward to next week down in Austin?
Well, right now it's South by Southwest is kicking off in Austin.
Oh, that's fun for everyone who lives there.
Yeah, exactly. Work and play. Joe Biden is speaking about his cancer research initiative on Sunday. That's something happening over the weekend here. But looking forward to next week, though. Monday is the first day that the House and Senate can start bringing bills to the floor that aren't, related to emergency items. Dan Patrick has already said that he's going to be dedicating that day to law enforcement bills. There's a number of pieces of legislation he's been pushing, including a proposal to buy better bulletproof vests for police officers in the state. I'm sure you're going to see some legislation recognizing or honoring the officers who were involved in the shooting in Dallas last year. So in the Senate that day is going to be solely focused on law enforcement-related bills.
Very cool. Patrick Svitek, TexasTribune.org. As always, appreciate your time, and we'll visit with you next week.
Have a good weekend.
You too. That's Patrick Svitek, Texas Tribune.